of your life, that series?
Yes, because everybody thinks I travel up and
A
down
bicycle.
the A77 on a bike with a wee red cardigan on me. Yeah, so
That's how it used to be, but it's changed. It's all changed nowadays.
yes,
It's all
absolutely.
changed. Now, one of the things that we spotted the last couple of days is in the news, an actress from Call the Midwife on TV who's been taking some stick on social media and has hit back about it, about her multiple chins. It's Helen George who plays Nurse Trixie Franklin. Now, she was 7 months pregnant when she filmed the series, so she's obviously got a fuller face and body, but people were having a go and saying, who ate all the pies on social media. So looking at the issue of putting on weight during pregnancy, everybody's obviously, it goes with the territory. What's natural weight to be putting on during pregnancy?
I think for different women, firstly, I think Helen George is absolutely gorgeous, and I think she looked beautiful. She certainly didn't look overweight, or, she looked fabulous. Having a healthy weight gain is really dependent on what your weight is when you become pregnant. Everybody will put on some weight. Some women, unfortunately, will lose a little weight if they're very sick. But certainly Helen George didn't put on an excessive weight at all. I thought she looked beautiful.
Yeah, she said in reply on social media, "Sorry if my chins offended you. I choose to feed my baby healthily and not starve myself in a selfish act to look good on TV." Good for her.
Yeah, good for her.
Good for her. So what are the factors that lead to mums to be putting on that additional weight? There's all the old stuff about eating for two and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's natural things the body is doing in terms of retaining water, etc. as well.
Yeah.
What else is going on?
It's like you're saying, it's very natural to put on some weight when you're pregnant. Some people are ferociously hungry when they're pregnant, especially in the middle months. Some people are very tired, so maybe the amount of exercise or movement they're doing during the day is a bit less. Like you're saying, a lot of people there is the increased weight of the baby and the uterus and the amniotic fluid and placenta, and these are all part of your weight gain as well. It's not just fat, Obviously, you need to think about eating a good range of healthy food when you're pregnant, so that you've got enough nutrition. But certainly pregnant women shouldn't be worrying about dieting. They should be thinking about eating well.
We've just finished the phone-in, Cass. You heard a bit of that about this new research which will concern everybody this morning in terms of processed food. What's the best advice from a midwife to a mum who is expecting about just what she should be eating in her diet for herself and also for the baby?
She needs to eat a good range of healthy foods. The things we all know about: fruit, vegetables, plenty of fibre. Some fats occasionally are absolutely fine. Avoiding things like diet drinks, and that's not because of the sugar in them, it's because of the aspartame in them is not particularly good for you. Not craving 10 packs of Jaffa cakes a day. Well, you might crave them, but really you should try and nip that one in the bud and not do it. We know what healthy eating is. Unfortunately, some people have a diet before they're pregnant that isn't particularly healthy and really doesn't improve when they are. On the plus side, generally we find that even women that have extreme diets and eating odd things in pregnancy, the baby's usually fine.
We'll talk more about these extreme cravings a little bit later with you as well. Some fascinating things coming up. We'll talk about that a bit later. In terms of just foods let's flip it. In terms of foods to avoid, we were living in France when my wife was pregnant, and that was a nightmare in terms of the soft cheeses and all these things.
Cheese and patty.
Yeah. So what's the advice around all that stuff now? What people should avoid when pregnant?
Again, the
Still
soft cheeses, shellfish, fresh mayonnaise, ready-prepared salads. The salads you buy in the supermarket that are ready-made. You're more likely to get things like listeria from things like that. Again, it comes down to healthy eating. Some people my children are old enough now that there weren't really many restrictions. In fact, I remember my midwife saying to me, have some liver. And now people are told, don't eat liver because it's high in vitamin E and that can be toxic in pregnancy. So, different things, different stages and ages.
Okay, so this is the run-up to... We'll just miss out the entire birth thing, okay? We'll just assume that's happened.
No.
Now, we'll talk about that later. So the other side of it, another issue often for women is losing that weight after pregnancy, because it can stay around when you're breastfeeding. It can stay with you for some time.
Yeah.
And the advice would be, don't get too hung up about that.
Absolutely not. Your body is actually still working quite hard. And the reason you put on weight is because that fat helps you, especially if you're going to be breastfeeding. And actually longer term breastfeeding over 6 months actually helps with weight loss. And lots of women will say that. So you need the extra fat to support you and your baby. And nature's designed that you put on weight when you're pregnant so that you're able to have reserves to breastfeed your baby. And your body does that whether you choose to breastfeed or not. But certainly pregnant women who've just had a baby really should be focusing on their general health and well-being and actually caring for them and their babies rather than worrying about the size of their jeans.
Okay, you're listening to Cass McNamara, midwife. Isn't she great? She knows it all. So if you've got any questions about pregnancy, if you've got questions about your partner's pregnancy, if you just want to get ahead of the game, maybe you've just received the good news and you want to know a little bit more about what's coming up, 08085 92 95 00 is the number to call, or it's 80295 to text. Cass, you'll be back with us a little bit later. Run through some pregnancy news stories, some of the big things that are hitting the headlines at the moment, but also, most importantly, to answer your questions on anything. Now, this could be maybe you've just got the good news and you're just slightly concerned about how things are going to go. Maybe you've got some queries halfway through pregnancy, or maybe birth is imminent and you want some reassurance or just want to ask a particular question. It's 08085 92 95 00 or 80295 on the text if you want to get in touch with us. Mrs. G in Glasgow has texted Cass. She asks, why has my pregnant daughter-in-law to take aspirin every day, apparently to prevent preeclampsia? Is this safe for the baby?
It is. It's actually a recommended guideline for some women. We know that aspirin acts as a slight blood thinner. It's perfectly safe for the baby, and it's given to prevent the risk of clots. For some women, it's given to prevent the risks of miscarriages early on. It's not an unusual thing to be prescribed.
Nothing to worry about there.
No, it's not.
Okay, that's good. Right, now, any questions? 80295 for Cass, or 08085 92 95 00 if you want to give us a ring instead. And it could be anything at all, big or small. We don't mind. Also with us in the studio this morning is Kieran Brannan. His wife is 29 weeks pregnant. I'm just doing some quick sums, working out when that happened. Okay, right. Kieran, excited about the big day?
Very excited, Stephen, yeah. Wary, nervous, but mainly excited, yeah.
Have you been going to all the classes as well?
We haven't actually went to any classes yet. The classes start that we're going to, the 2nd of March is the first class we're going to, but...
It's in the diary. You're not busy that day, no?
No, it's definitely marked down for that.
And when's due date for you?
2nd of May.
Good.
So it's slowly creeping up on me.
How have things been so far? How's it been going?
A little up and down recently, but to start with, perfectly normal pregnancy, everything was going good, and then 27 weeks rolled around and Chloe started getting sharp shooting pains in her back. We had to go into the maternity unit. Weren't entirely sure what it was. They thought it was something called cholestasis, which is something that apparently affects pregnant women's livers. So they put her on, because they did a blood test, and our liver numbers were way up high where they shouldn't be, and it's because of a backup in bile in the liver. But it turned out it's to do with gallstones. She's developed gallstones.
Wow.
And apparently the pain she was feeling was a gallstone going through the little duct that goes from the gallbladder to the intestine.
Yikes.
So yeah, that wasn't the best thing.
Right. So Cass is here. Is that common? Is that related to pregnancy?
You are more likely to develop problems with your gallbladder when you're pregnant because pregnancy hormones, particularly progesterone, cause your muscles to relax a bit, and you need that so that your muscles can stretch and grow to allow the baby to grow. But of course it affects the gallbladder too, and if the gallbladder doesn't empty as effectively as normal, you get sediment build-up that turns into stones. So women are a bit more prone to gallstones than men, and you're a bit more prone to them when you're pregnant too.
What are the other things like that can crop up, Cass? The other kind of, let's call them side effects that can go in terms of your health with pregnancy?
I suppose a more topical one would be when women develop hyperemesis, and that's really severe nausea and vomiting to the extent that they can't actually even keep water down, and it can become life-threatening. People can become so dehydrated that they need IV fluids and they need quite a lot of care and treatment. And years ago, women did die, not all of them, but women did die of things like hyperemesis. That's not just normal
morning sickness.
Morning or late afternoon sickness, but you can eat little bits here and there and you get better. Hyperemesis is very extreme. And that's, again, linked to hormones. Some people think it's linked to vitamin deficiencies, more likely with multiple pregnancies. There's all sorts of different things. You can have another thing, pelvic girdle pain, where the joints in your pelvis become a bit loose because of pregnancy hormones. That's not uncommon. The good news is it usually stops after the baby's born, although not always. And it can be transient, so it can happen for a short period of time and then get better as the pregnancy progresses.
Even not at the severe end of the sickness scale, a lot of women can just have that nausea.
Absolutely.
And it often seems to be morning and late afternoon. Any idea why then?
It's probably to do with, throughout the day, your hormones, all your body systems, there's peaks and troughs and rises and falls and different things going on. And also having an empty stomach as well can make, you get a lot of stomach acid, can make people more sick. So early in the morning, so women are recommended a bit of dry toast, a cracker, something like that, so their stomach's not completely empty. Yeah. In the evening, it can be the smell of food.
Just something cooking that is enough to set you off. Kieran, has that been a problem at home?
Early on it was as well, yeah. Sort of like 8 weeks to 12 weeks, there was quite a lot of vomiting and stuff, but nothing that severe, luckily.
The fingers crossed, so far. Right, listen, stay with us. Back to the phone lines, 08085 92 95 00. Question for you this morning. Here's Jeanette. Good morning, Jeanette.
Good morning.
Morning. What's your question for Cass?
I just had a question. I've been diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and I was just wondering about the complications that can arise during labour.
Hi, Jeanette.
Hiya.
Well, that's... Unfortunately, gestational diabetes is, as you've found out, something that people can just seem to develop. In terms of your labour, it shouldn't actually have any impact on your labour at all. Before making sure that, I don't know whether it's diet controlled or whether you're on insulin or any kind of medication, but, they'll be checking that the baby is growing appropriately, and when you're in labour, it shouldn't actually make any real difference to the progress of your labour at all. Making sure that you, in early labour, you do eat and drink, if you're able to, if you feel that you're able to. And after baby's born, it might be that they check baby's blood sugar levels a few times in the first few hours just to make sure it is. But actually early feeding, so having the baby and either straight skin to skin and then onto the boob for a first feed early is the best way to stabilise the baby's temperature and its blood sugar levels.
How's it been so far, Jeanette, the pregnancy?
Oh, it's been... it's actually been a real delight.
Lovely.
As I was saying, I was getting off really lightly. I have friends who haven't been feeling so well, but no, been feeling fine, and then when I got this diagnosis, I was like, a bit terrified, but it's controlled without medication, just diet controlled so far. So it was just that I was planning on going to a birthing centre in a birth pool, but that's not on the cards now. So
there isn't actually any reason. Your diet controlled gestational diabetes really isn't a massive contraindication. I mean, some hospitals will have policies where anybody that has anything from a serious condition to a spot in their leg might not get into a birthing centre. However, however, that doesn't mean to say that that's because there's an anticipated problem. That's because that's their policy. There is actually no reason to presume that you won't have a perfectly straightforward labour and birth.
Jeanette, what's your due date?
The 16th of April.
16th of April, right. Put it in the diary, send flowers, 16th. Very best wishes for it, Jeanette. Thank you very much indeed for your call this morning. Hey, Cass, while we've got you here talking about calling the midwife, one of the storylines recently was people, mums-to-be, eating unusual things, including coal.
Oh, yes.
I'd not heard of this before. What's the story behind that? Pregnant women craving coal.
Craving, there is a condition called pica, and that word is actually a Latin word that is the Latin word for magpie, and magpies are notorious for eating anything. So pica is not just cravings for pickles and ice cream. Pica is when women crave things that have no nutritional value. So ice, coal, chalk, soil, clay, sponges. And there's some school of thought that thinks that it's possibly a craving for certain trace minerals. There is a study was out just last year actually showed that women that crave ice when they're pregnant are more likely to have iron deficient anemia. So it's maybe worth, if you're really craving ice, to have your iron levels rechecked.
What's the most unusual craving that you've come across with a mum-to-be, Cass? People all like weird and wonderful things, I know when I was pregnant with all of mine, it was tinned sardines. Yum.
And I would eat them in the middle of the night. I was a fiend for sardines.
It's your partner I feel sorry for in all of this.
Yeah.
Cass, pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for your time this
You're
morning.
welcome.
Midwife Cass McNamara.